Hello, my name is Jim Rutherford. I'm a mobile application developer and a bit of a designer. And what I thought I'd do is share my workflow for preparing graphics for iPhone development using Adobe Fireworks. I know a lot of people are probably familiar with Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe Fireworks is another application by Adobe that really excels at bitmap and vectorized graphics. It's been a tool I've been using for many years, and I've tried to continue to use this in my iOS development workflow. And one of the things I really like about Fireworks is the ability to create vector elements and then make adjustments to them later on very, very easily. Things like live effects and drop shadows and glows and gradients, and they're always editable all the time. Also, they have some great exporting features, and those are what I'm going to talk about in this screencast. So I want to start with a little bit of a UI I've designed here. So it has a horizontal slider, looks very similar to the one that's used in the Apple podcast application, and then a background graphic. Now, it's important for the workflow that I'm using in terms of how you name your layers, because essentially what we're going to do is we're going to export all of these layers as individual images. And I'm also going to use another application once these have been exported that will automatically take any Retina size assets and convert them to non-Retina sized assets. So a couple of things I do is we'll just sort of hide some of these layers. So here's my horizontal picker background, and I put everything into that's part of this particular element in one layer, and I've given it a name followed by the @2x suffix, so that when this is exported, the actual file name it's going to have is horizontal picker bg @2x.png. Now, if there's any particular layers that I don't want to be exported, I put a ::, not for export, and we'll see how that comes into play a little bit later when we actually do the export. Now, I also have within this layer, I have two sublayers. So one sublayer, which is this not for export, is if you notice over here, I have 4 small ticks. And in the not for export layer, those are 3 of the ticks, or sorry, 4 of the ticks, and then I have a separate layer with just 1 of the ticks. I don't want all 4 or all 5 of these ticks to be exported. I only want 1 to be exported, so I've placed the 4 that I don't want to be exported into this not for export sublayer. And pretty much the same for other places. Anything I don't want to be exported, I name that layer not for export. And the reason I do that is for a couple of reasons. One is I've got a very clear indication as to which layers I don't want to export. So when I'm ready to do my export layers, I can hide those and they won't be exported. Or what will happen is, because they all have the same layer name, what will happen is if they do happen to get exported, they will be exported just on top of each other, so we don't end up with a lot of extra files that we may not want. So once we are ready to export this, one thing I want to do first is introduce you to a tool called Unretibot, and it's just a little utility that lives in your on your Windows status bar or menu bar, and it allows you to add folders which will be watched. So I'm going to be exporting all of these UI elements into a folder here called exported. So I'm going to put a watch on this folder, and I'm going to just call this this is my hubcap project. So we'll give it a name here. It's going to ask us if we want this folder to be monitored, so I'm going to allow that. And now anytime that a Retina image is modified or saved or created within this folder, Unretibot is going to create a non-Retina version at the exact same time. So we'll see how that happens. So I'm going to go and I'm going to hit the File menu, I'm going to choose export, and we're going to get the fireworks export dialog to come up. And typically it's going to be set to HTML and images. That's probably the default. But we want to choose layers to files, and we want to make sure that trim images is set, is checked. That way, when all of these layers are exported, the images are going to be trimmed to the exact size of the graphics that are on that particular layer. We also have some options, and if we want, we can choose to add a prefix and suffix. That's not necessary in this case because we've named all of our layers. And we can choose the file type that we want. I'm going to choose ping32. Now when I click export, it's going to indicate here that the not for export file already exists, so we can continue to replace it if we want. We'll just click OK. And now we've completed our export process. So if I come over and now into my exported folder, I've got a couple of not for export, so I can just take these and you know, move them to trash, get rid of them if I want. And we'll see that now I have a background image, and I have a background at 2x, and we'll see that these are at retina size. I've got the big tick and big tick at retina size. So really, with fireworks, organizing everything on layers and using Unretibot, it's a fairly slick workflow for making sure that all of your assets are being being generated with really as little effort as possible. I hope you enjoyed this and hope it's given you some ideas, and thanks for your time.